Last summer, I broke my leg, and the doctor tells me after the surgery, it was one of the worst he'd ever worked on. And I said, really? He said, yeah, but I've only been doing them a year. I was riding down Shepherd Drive. It was a beautiful day. Gorgeous day in Houston, Texas. Thank you. Thank you, Stan. It's a beautiful day, music. Or I could be a TV evangelist. Thank you for your help. Anyway, I was driving down Shepherd Drive in Houston, and somebody cut me off, and I slammed on the brakes, and I'll never forget as I was going down thinking, this gonna hurt. And I wasn't wearing a helmet, which I know is stupid, but in Texas, we have you don't have to wear a helmet law, because we don't care about our stupid people. And my head is the only thing I remember hitting the pavement. I don't remember my leg even touching the pavement, but my head slammed, and it was so loud. It's like an empty cantaloupe. It was, and I went deaf for about 60 seconds, and I was sitting on the road, and people drove up in a truck, and they said, do you need an ambulance? I said, oh, no, I can't hear. And the ambulance came, and they stuck me in there. And you know those ambulances, they don't have shocks. You could run over a quarter and tell if it's heads or tails. And then they said, what hospital would you like to go to? I said, the nearest one. They got me to the hospital, and they started working on the leg. They thought it was out of socket, but it was shattered all the way down to the leg. In fact, they had to fill me up with dead people, y'all. I got cadavers living in me now. I hope they were saved. Well, what happens if they weren't? And the Lord comes back. Is my knee gonna fall out? And I was laying there in the hospital, and I was in so much pain, screaming like a schoolgirl, until they brought me a morphine drip. I'm telling you, that thing took care of everything. And then they had me sign papers before they'd put the dead people in. I had to sign papers. I thought they were wanting autographs. I was just signing away. I didn't. And it was an interesting experience. I'm thankful, though, that, to me, life is like that. It's just a, it's like watching a movie. If you paid $10 for a movie or whatever it costs these days, and you went in and there was no drama, wouldn't you want your money back? If your life was full of drama, that's exciting. Because this is boot camp, y'all. This is where we get to learn to walk by faith. Unless you're Pentecostal, then you get miracles, but Baptists, we don't get them. Yeah, y'all seen the dead live, the blind see, the deaf hear. Baptists, nothing. Vesta used to pray for people. She'd tell me I'd run to the bus after the Gaither concerts because they had the good food on their bus, because when Gaither lost all that weight, got real skinny, and you know how people, when they're fat and then they get skinny, they also get self-righteous? And he started putting sugarless sugar wafers on the bus. Sugarless sugar wafers. What is that? It's like oxygen-free air. So I'd go to Vestal's bus because she had no convictions on that. She'd have fried chicken and all that good stuff, and we'd sit over there and talk about the Lord, and she'd say she prayed for somebody, they got healed. She prayed for them. I got kind of upset about it. I pray for people and they die. You want to see Jesus? Get in line. I'll pray for you. But I told her one day, I found a scripture in the Bible, and I was so excited I couldn't wait to see her again. I said, Vestal, Jesus says I'm more blessed than you. She said, how so? I said, because he said, blessed are they who've not seen and yet believe. I ain't seen nothing. I've never seen a miracle. I'm not talking about you blow on people and they do a backflip. I'm talking about going to Granny's funeral, she'd get up and say, hey. I mean, a miracle, you know. But if I did see one, I couldn't believe anymore. I couldn't believe because I'm telling you, all my eggs are in that basket. If he ain't right, I'm in trouble. When I was a little kid, I remember my mother was the first one to tell me about him. I remember Mama said one time, she said, if anybody knew Jesus was virgin born, Mary knew it. I thought, boy, you got that right. They couldn't take that away from her. And you know, I love the fact that God has no standards. He'll use anybody. I mean, they were lousy parents. Did you know that? Have you ever lost your kid for 4 days before you thought to look for him? Did you know that? They went to Jerusalem with little 12-year-old Jesus, and they were 2 days into their journey home when it dawned on them. You know, that is bad parenting. And they had to hightail it back to Jerusalem, you remember? That's 4 days, 2 days out, 2 days back. Here you've been entrusted with God's kid and you've lost it. They get back to Jerusalem and there he is and he says to her, she says, where have you been? Why didn't you stay with the group? And he says, don't you know I must be about my Father's business? And she bought it. That line never worked for me. I tried it. Mama said, I'll show you your father's business. Get in the house. Because my mama knew I wasn't virgin born. And then we don't hear from him, you know, for like, till he's 30. Good night. Isn't that sad? I'd like to know what kind of teenager he was. I'd like to know who were his heroes. I would love to know who were his friends. Who did he look up to? Did he have a girlfriend? Did his mother ever make him get a haircut? Did she ever say, turn the music down, it's too loud? Did she ever walk into his room and say, clean up this mess, were you born in a barn? We don't know, because nobody wrote it down. Good night, God's in the house. Somebody keep a journal. But the next time we see him, he's 30. He's 30. That's old back then. And he knows he's the Messiah. And Mary knows he's the Messiah. And he's still living at home. She is ready for him to go Messiah. And she walks up to him at the marriage supper and says, they've run out of wine. And you know what he said to her? He said, woman, he said, woman, what am I going to do with you? You know, if you're going to call your mom a woman, you better be God. Or you're going to be wearing your teeth around your neck, you know? He said, what am I going to do with you? It's not my time, but it was his time, and Mama knew it. And I love the fact that his first miracle was one just to keep the party going. He loved to party. He loved to have a good time. He'd rather hang around authentic sinners than fake saints any day. And he loved the broken, and he loved the outcast. He loved people that didn't have their fig leaves so tightly bound they'd forgotten the seeping wounds beneath the foliage. And he came for one like me, a hyperactive ADD, who had ADD before they knew how to abbreviate it. I used to have ADHD, but I've dropped the H. I'm gonna be 50 next year. I ain't got time for hyperactivity. I don't follow my brain around the room anymore. I sit in the lazy boy and watch it. I know it'll be back eventually. But I am so thankful and so glad to be here tonight. I never dreamed that I would get to stand on this stage without Bill. And I'm so honored that you let me be here, and I'd like to sing for you now my hit, a medley of my hit.